Dana, thank you for joining me today. I'm really excited to have you on the inaugural episode of our web content series, Branching Out Compliance with Robin. I think this is a phenomenal topic for us to start with because you have been my mentor and my sponsor in this
Oh,
space. And I get a lot of questions about people or from people about what it's like in the industry, how I got to where I am. And you are one of those people that you've helped me every step of the way. So I'm really excited to have you here today. Would you just give us a little bit of your background?
yeah, absolutely. And I really appreciate the kind words. I also look to you as someone who has been a sponsor for me and a sounding board. So I think we'll dive into that a little bit, but I feel like it can go in all directions, the sponsorship and mentorship. So, hello, everyone. My name is Dana Lawrence, and my career has been exclusively in financial services and technology, starting in 2003. I worked in traditional financial services, and then I started working in fintech in 2014. And really, throughout those experiences, I've held roles under the umbrella of governance. And I consider governance to be internal audit, compliance, risk management, information security, kind of like all the things that could potentially go wrong in a business. I help identify and manage and make sure that we get the outcomes we want. Currently, I am working at a community bank, and I've been responsible for setting up a bank fintech partnership program for them, identifying the fintech partners, identifying the technology, executing all that, and going through the regulatory exams. So, love all things fintech, and as Robin alluded to, we have been collaborators on a variety of projects over the past, and just thrilled to have this conversation today.
Amazing. You have such an amazing background. Um,
As do
and I,
you.
my background is very similar to yours.
Mhm.
And we always joke, so you and I have had a lot of conversations over the last year or so about how there's five people in fintech, right?
Mhm.
I mean, there's obviously more than that, but I feel like I
Yeah.
keep running into the same folks over
Yeah.
and over and over again. And one of the things I love most about this industry is this network,
Hmm.
and how finding people who are good people first of all,
Hmm.
with good goals, because there's a lot of negative in fintech, particularly
Hmm.
in sort of like the money driven side of fintech is not really my
Sure.
jam. I really want to make
Hmm.
safe products for consumers, and finding people like yourself that have those same goals has
Hmm.
been really critical for me. So I would love to hear from your perspective because you are a phenomenal mentor and sponsor for me. I would love to
Thank
hear
you.
I'd love to hear what you think about that. How do you think about
Hmm.
mentorship versus sponsorship? What do you think?
Hmm. Well, again, thank you. I'm gonna have to like save this video and like
When you're having a bad
re-listen to
day.
it every morning when I'm getting ready for work and need a pep talk. So I'll share a little bit of history around how I even stumbled across these things, and then I'll define a little bit more mentor and sponsor, and then we can kind of like dive in. But so I went to college, I got a degree in finance, I found myself working in the financial services industry, and I spent a lot of time on my technical skills. I would get all the certifications. I would kind of like quietly and politely do all the work, volunteer for extra work. And I thought that that was the way to be successful. And I think technical skills and work ethic are definitely a component of it. But I think I was lacking confidence and kind of like an authentic confidence in being able to express my ideas, speak in front of others. And I think it was really holding me back. So, about, maybe, I don't know, it's maybe almost like 8 or 10 years into my full-time working career, I started getting a little bit frustrated because I really wanted certain opportunities and I saw them going to other people. And I started to do some self-reflecting. And that's when I really started actively reaching out. And I guess maybe that's the first time I really sought out mentors. And up until that point in time, I think, I had bosses who would let me attend conferences or let me pursue certifications, but there wasn't really any like leadership type of coaching. So around that point in time, how I did this was I had a specific goal of, building confidence and trying to get into more leadership opportunities. And I approached primarily other women executives that I admired who had confidence and I thought were successful. And I literally just said, I really admire you. I'm working on my confidence and I would love to take you out to coffee. And back then, it was still very much in person working. So it was very easy to like ask people and like take a quick coffee break. And for the most part, people were willing to do that because they saw that I was really invested in like growing in a specific way. And I started talking to different people. Some people naturally were confident, some people really had to work on it. But kind of like taking those little baby steps, I started to accumulate people that I would consider mentors. And I actually have my chat GPT pulled up because I want to like say the definition of mentors just to kind of set the stage. And chat GPT says, a mentor is someone who provides guidance, advice, and support based on their experience and knowledge. Mentors help you grow professionally and personally by sharing insights, offering feedback, and helping you navigate your career. So the focus is on development and learning. They're kind of acting as an advisor or coach. And, maybe it's someone who you kind of meet with on a periodic basis to develop leadership skills. Maybe I'll pause there because that was kind of my first foray into mentorship. The concept of sponsorship, I think, is very distinctly different, but I actually want to kind of check in with you on your thoughts on mentorship and how that's shown up. And I'll briefly define a sponsor. And how I think a sponsor is different is, again, ChatGPT, I have this pulled up. A sponsor is someone who advocates for you especially when you are not in the room. And this is a powerful unlock that helps you get access to like different trajectories of your career. So sponsors use their influence and network to help you gain visibility, promotions, stretch assignments, or leadership opportunities. They're really an advocate or champion who's taking action on your behalf. So before we dive into sponsorship, I'll just kind of pause and see what resonates with you, see kind of like what your experience with mentors has been. And also, a lot of times people ask, like, how do you get a mentor? And I think, some companies have like formal programs like assign you, but I've probably had most of my success with like informal mentorships that I developed on my own. So I'll stop talking and kind of pass it back to you and see what resonated.
No, all of that resonated. I mean, it's you talk about 10 years ago what you were doing, and I was doing something very similar, although you took a much more active approach than I was taking at the time. My mentors were a lot of them were just in my reporting line at work, right?
Mhm.
That's kind of the easiest place you can find mentorship because I think it's part of the role of being a boss. But,
Mhm.
like you said, I didn't start to see my career and frankly, my knowledge of things that weren't just critical to the job that I was performing. Um,
Mhm.
it really didn't take off until I started to seek out beyond that direct line of mentorship into that sponsorship category. And what I found really interesting about sponsorship is that, mentors are a very specific thing you're looking for on a very specific topic. Sponsors are about you, right? They're
Mhm.
trying to help you and not just in like gaining a new skill with the Bank Secrecy Act or transaction monitoring,
Mhm.
any things. Sponsors are really about personal development, and I love that distinction between the two.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm interested to hear about your thoughts on sponsorship as well, because I think both are good.
Right.
Neither is bad, neither is better than the
Mhm.
other, but they have different outcomes, like you were saying.
Mhm.
So tell me a little bit more about sponsorship and sort of what that looks like for you
Mhm.
today.
Mhm. Again, sponsorship is, in my opinion, more about people who are taking tangible actions to invest maybe their reputation or political capital on your behalf because they believe in you. And I think mentors, sometimes you can get matched with a mentor. I think a sponsor, at least in my opinion, maybe there's formal sponsorship programs, but I feel like a sponsor might be more in like the earned category. If you're really invested in your career, your professional growth, you're showing that you're really open to receiving feedback and learning from that. I think sponsors are more willing to invest in putting themselves out there on the line to vouch for you. But again, I think, let's see here. I had a really powerful person stand up for me at a point in time when, I had been really working on myself, really working on my confidence, applying all the things, and there was a big kind of restructure going on at a company I work for, and I had a really clear vision of how to solve a big problem. And I pitched myself, and this is not something I would have done like a couple years previously, but I pitched myself as the person who could like lead this group to solve this big thing. And an executive probably advocated on my behalf, and I was given the opportunity to do that. And it was not without its challenges. It was one of the more difficult things I've ever done. And yet it gave me kind of that first opportunity to really show more people the impact of my abilities and ability to like support teams and kind of like solve bigger, meatier problems. But I do recognize that person as a sponsor, even if they don't even remember doing it, because that person gave me an opportunity. The other ways that I see sponsors show up in my life are people who particularly gave me access to speaking opportunities, people who, maybe referred me for a job opportunity. I feel like a lot of the jobs that I've had over the last, 10 plus years have actually happened from my network because someone was like, oh, hey, maybe I had a good experience working with you, and I think you have really, specific skill set to this. I think it might be a good match. Anyone who like refers you to a job, that's an act of sponsorship. And when I think about, kind of maybe the concept of fairness and equity in the world, I would say it's not. I personally don't think that, life is a meritocracy as much as we'd love to believe it, but I do think that I've taken the concept of sponsorship to heart because I know that, like, no matter where I'm at in my career, whether I'm starting out, whether I'm retired, whether I'm seeking work, I have energy and I can choose to support other people or not. So for me, it actually feels like really powerful and fulfilling to be able to sponsor other people, even if it's like just a small thing, maybe referring them for a job opportunity or putting their name into a speaker or a conference type of situation. Like there's so many different ways that we can advocate for other people that could really meaningfully boost them. So that's kind of top of mind on sponsorship, but I do feel like it's a powerful lever. And if you can have sponsors, and again, I don't know if you can like formally request a sponsor. I almost feel like you have to attract it with your behavior, your mindset, and how you're showing up. I don't know.
I think
How
that's
does
a
that
really great
resonate?
point. Yeah, I mean, I
Mhm.
think that's a really great point, Dana. And there's a theme that I keep hearing from you, and it's something that I personally struggle with, and I know that other people do as well, and people that are in these sponsorship positions and high level positions in organizations, and that is you talked about confidence
Mhm.
and asking for things, and that's
Mhm.
something that was not inherent in my personality, at least for the first half of my career. I didn't want to ask for things. I felt that I was bothering somebody by reaching out and saying, hey, do you remember we met at this conference 6 months ago? We really hit it off. You have a position open in your company, or maybe there's
Mhm.
this opportunity. Do you want to sit down and talk? Those
Mhm.
were not things that came easy to me.
Mhm.
People ask me all the time, especially about webinars, because they see me doing all these webinars, and you do all these webinars. I said,
Mhm.
well, I could never do a webinar. I could never get on screen and talk. And you kind of have to force yourself. It doesn't
Mhm.
feel good initially, but when you start to get comfortable being uncomfortable, which is that is the I mean, that's the foundation of being a compliance officer is you are always uncomfortable in some way, shape, or form with decisions,
Yes.
with having to go and talk in front of the board, with filing a SAR that you're feeling a little uncomfortable about. But I think that that confidence is very much a fake it till you make it thing. And sometimes you just have to ask, or
Hmm.
sometimes you just have to put yourself out there. How did you really kind of boost yourself up to
Hmm.
have that confidence or fake that confidence initially?
Okay. I hope that this is not the sound bite, but this might be the sound bite. This is like a big vulnerability share, but if it can help like one person, I will gladly share it. I knew I had the technical skills and the work ethic, and I got along with people, but I extremely lacked confidence. And I had an opportunity to get coaching to work on my confidence, but it took me 1 year to build up the confidence to present it to my boss to get help with confidence. So
But
it's
you
like
did it. I mean, you did it,
it just,
right?
yeah. I just like laugh about that because it's like I had this thing I wanted, help with confidence, and it took me 1 year to build the confidence to just simply ask my boss if it's something that I could do. My boss said yes, and working with a professional coach, not everyone has access to that. They are a big time and resource investment. They can be very costly. It absolutely was the best money I've ever spent. And I personally, anytime I've gotten a raise, I've continued to invest that in my personal development. And, it might be a little bit less fun than going on more vacations per year or having a nicer car, but it has been the best thing for me personally to continue to invest in coaching. Something I think that would be important to share with our audience is, again, how do you actually get a mentor? How do you actually get a sponsor? I think there's a lot of different ways to slice and dice this, but I'm going to share it in kind of like a spectrum or like a continuum of what is likely to work well and what is not likely to work well. What is probably not likely to work well is viewing it as transactional and one-sided. So, for instance, if you immediately reach out to someone that you have no existing relationship with and ask them for something, and maybe your ask does represents that you didn't really do much research, you don't really, care about an ongoing relationship. You just want someone to give you job or give you this thing. And that is probably kind of like less likely on the scenario of getting success. Some things that you could do to increase your chances is viewing your network as your net worth, which is, kind of a cliche type of thing, but really thinking about your ability to work with people and maintain positive relationships is something that you can build on and contribute to kind of for the rest of your life and definitely the rest of your professional life. And seeking out relationships that are not one-sided, they're not transactional, but are truly like a relationship. A senior executive at Google once agreed to mentor me, and I was like over the moon, just so excited about it. And when I approached her, I was waiting in line at a conference and there was probably like 20 people in front of me and I could hear them and they were all like, how do I get a job at a Google? Can you give me a job at Google? Can I get a job at Google? Can I get a job at Google? Can I get a job at Google? And then I got up and was just like, I loved your presentation when you talked about XYZ. Like I just thought that was so valuable and I'm specifically working on ABC and is there any way that I could have like a 15-minute conversation with you in the future? And she said yes. And so from that 15-minute conversation, I came prepared. I, learned from it and I like took that information and ran and went with it. And then she proceeded to like proactively say, "Hey, we can meet for the next year." And I was just like, "What?"
That's crazy. What an
What?
opportunity. That's
Yeah,
insane. Did you
yeah,
ask for it? I
Yeah, and
mean,
that and it was, it was and I think kind of like in a sponsorship or mentorship opportunity, maybe like the more senior person actually can also learn from maybe the more junior person. Like it's really it can be it's a two-way street and it's not transactional. So the other thing more on the less likely for your sponsorship or mentorship to be successful is if that sponsor or mentor is spending time with you, but you're really not open to doing hard work or growing. It's very apparent and it's kind of like, what are we doing here? So another thing is, I know we're all busy and sometimes scheduling problems happen, but if I, offer my time to meet with someone and, they don't show up or, just say, "Oh, I forgot." Like, I'm going to be like, "Well, I'm probably not going to invest my limited time with you again, or I'm going to put you in the back of the line." So, just remembering it's a two-way street and the more you give, like the more you're gonna get out of it. So I don't know,
yeah.
what kind of how does sponsoring show up for you?
I mean, I think you made a lot of really great points. And your last one too about whoever's being sponsored putting in the work, because I sponsor a lot of people because I would not be where I am in my career if it weren't for the people that got me here. I'm very cognizant about that. So the attitude that I take in the industry is pay it forward, both with people,
Mhm.
but also, just trying to understand what is the tech out there, who should I be talking to? What's the way that I should kind of be behaving and not treating everything like you said as transactional,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes I'll meet with a company with I don't need to get anything out of it other than just they
Mhm.
asked to meet with me, so I'll take the meeting. But
Mhm.
you said something about them being active in the sponsorship, and I will tell you when it's not been successful for me as a sponsor is when I have someone who asks me for a meeting, and again, I will usually always take a meeting,
Mhm.
but when they don't actually do any of the things that I say, hey, you might want to check out this training. And there's a lot of free training out there, right? So someone
Mhm.
will ask me, I want to learn more about AI. I don't know anything. There's a bunch of free AI courses, but then you don't follow up on it and you come
Mhm.
back to me and I gave you a list of stuff that said, hey, you can advance yourself doing this. And then they say, well,
Mhm.
I'm really interested in this job. Can you help me get this job? Do you know anybody at this company? That to me, like you said, feels very transactional. And it kind of, as a sponsor, it makes me feel really icky.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah.
official industry term. I feel really icky because I don't, I don't as a sponsor want to feel used. I
Yeah.
want to believe that we're in this sort of symbiotic thing in this industry where we're all working towards a greater good to make the industry better, to make it
Mhm.
stronger. You and I have talked a lot in the past about the excuse me, the lack of really good compliance professionals that they want to learn more skills beyond very very narrow focuses, and it's
Mhm.
not because those people don't exist, it's because those avenues of training or avenues of growth are really
Mhm.
hard to find.
Yeah.
And so I think, when I think about sponsorship, I think of it as that much more active participation in not only investing in yourself. I want you to invest in me. I want you to then take that energy. And I expect that you're going to turn around when you get that position, when you get that promotion, you're going to turn around, you're going to lift someone up with you behind you. Because
Right.
the only way, especially as women, and I don't want to get too much into women in fintech, that's a whole other topic, but we really do focus on making sure that we lift each other up at the same time.
Mhm.
We don't want to ever be one of those professionals that someone lifts us up into a position and we shut the door behind ourselves. And that
Mhm.
happens a lot. So I
Mhm.
think that, is insofar as, we talk about sponsorship and being active in that, I expect that to kind of go in all directions.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so building on this, one quick thing I want to remind people, you might have someone talking good about you behind your back and advocating for you, and it might not be like cleanly labeled as sponsor. You might not think you have it, but there probably are some people in your orbit that are sponsoring you, so just, thank them. Like be aware of it. I was talking to someone about sponsorship and mentorship, and I had made like multiple intros for this person and advocated for them and done all this stuff to kind of support and help them. And they're like, I wish I had a sponsor. And I was like,
You're like, it's me.
I don't know if you could be sponsored anymore, like just because it doesn't come with like a label. So just kind of like be aware and not saying like you have to be like, thankful or indebted, but th in a community, sponsorship can show up like a lot of different things. The other point I want to make is truly, like wherever you are at in your career, if you are a student, if you are unemployed, if you're doing a job pivot, if you're, super secure in your job, if you're retired, you have energy that you could invest in someone else and act as a sponsor for them. And I come back to it's like talking good about someone behind their back, which could lead to some sort of opportunity or sharing in a mentorship capacity. Again, you might think, oh, well, I'm not senior enough. You have some unique skill or gift that could help someone else, and you could have like collaborative learning from. So don't ever think you're not like XYZ enough to be a sponsor or a mentor or not senior enough. You absolutely have skills and gifts that can help other people.
No, that's a really great point. And it doesn't just because you suddenly become a director or a
Hmm.
VP or a CEO doesn't mean you suddenly become a sponsor. You are
Hmm.
sponsors, like we said, in every direction.
Hmm.
You can sponsor your boss. You know,
Yeah.
there's nothing that says that you can't. And I think, looking for those areas of opportunity, you can sponsor companies, right? Like there's you can do any number of things. That's one of the things that I love to do personally, Dana. I don't know, if you do this as well, but I love to find people who are doing really cool things in tech and in
Hmm.
fintech. And I'll just meet with them and I'll say, hey, tell me about your company. What are you doing? What makes you different? How can I help? That's one of the
Hmm.
best questions that I've found in these situations to say, how can I
Hmm.
help? What can I do? Is
Hmm.
it I have access to VCs because I help VCs. Can I introduce you to a VC?
Hmm.
Can I introduce you to this person who's looking for this particular technology, this bank that might be
Hmm.
interested? So asking that, how can I help is, I mean, it's opened up so many opportunities in my career, both like we talk about mentorship, sponsorship, but also just from a professional success perspective.
Hmm.
I always know I always have a job because people have
Hmm.
my back.
Hmm.
I can usually always generate business.
Hmm.
Um, I have people that I can go to ask questions when I don't know the answer. I mean, it's opened all of these doors for me that previously were completely closed.
Hmm.
So, I mean, do you have a question like that or something
Hmm.
that, a tip you can give to people to say
Hmm.
like, if there's one thing you can do, what is it?
I was having an interesting conversation with someone last night about the concept of being in a like having like a low trust mindset or maybe a high trust mindset, and neither of them are incorrect, but the lower trust is like, I don't trust that if I share information with you, you're not going to use that against me or sabotage me. And I think it kind of depends on like our, maybe upbringing or like where we're from. So I know that like some of the stuff we're talking about, like freely giving, it might not like feel like great advice. But I think that there can be great benefits if you're willing to take the risk of, I'm gonna kind of freely invest some stuff into Robin Garrison. And if it doesn't seem like it's reciprocal, best of luck to you. Like, there's other people in the world, but in the off chance that like, that was a good investment, now like you and I have known each other for years and it's been like a lifeline. So I think not everyone is going to feel comfortable just kind of like freely investing in things. We have limited time and a lot of us have like family obligations and heavy workloads and community obligations, but I would just encourage people to experiment with the concept of investing and maybe
Mhm.
not like just freely giving away your time, but like making little investments and check in on those. Did that pan out? Is that someone you want to continue to invest in or not? And those
Yeah.
investments are what is going to like really create your legacy and your ability to be successful in the industry.
No, that's a phenomenal point. And I would just add on to the reciprocity is um, giving. You give without expectation that you're going to get it back. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You help someone out, and you hope that they're someday going to help you. But
Mm-hmm.
again, that transactional nature, I'm not giving of my time and my energy with an expectation that you're going to immediately turn around and give it back to me. My expectation is you're gonna put it somewhere. I'd love if it was back to me. And you mentioned, the timeline of these things. We're not talking about weeks, we're not talking about months, we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
years. I run
Mm-hmm.
into people a decade later that
Mm-hmm.
they're like, hey, do you remember this one thing that we did? You really helped me out. Let me help you out here. I mean, these things have a really long tail on them. And I think
Mm-hmm.
if you just have good intentions and understand not everybody does, but if
Mm-hmm.
your intentions are pure and you're saying, you know what, I'm going to lift people up around me, then I mean, just the feeling of that is so
Mm-hmm.
wonderful.
Yeah. And you can have, I think I generally have that mindset, but also knowing kind of when to prune little things like,
When
okay,
to pull
that's not
back.
how that person operates. I maybe I would not invest in that situation again, or, we're just kind of not in the same, it's just not a great fit, and that's okay too.
Yeah. Well, it's that compliance officer skill that we all have to learn, and it is the hardest thing to learn, which is when do you stop? When do you pull back? When do
Hmm.
you stop an investigation? When do you make a decision to say no?
Hmm.
Um, so it's just another example of us kind of flexing those muscles. But
Hmm.
this has been a wonderful conversation, Dana. I'm so glad to have had you here. I mean, I feel like we could talk about this forever.
Hmm.
What are some
I have
final
a,
thoughts that you have?
I have a final thought. My final thought is, if you're going to take something away from this presentation, maybe it could be 1 minute, 5 minutes of self-reflection around where are the areas that you want to grow personally and professionally. And for me, I'm not going to tell you specifically what they are, but I have them. There's things I'm not good at that hold me back. And then there's areas where I want to continue to grow that I haven't grown yet, so I don't quite have a roadmap. So my kind of challenge for you would be doing a brief inventory of where you're at, where you would like to go, and maybe think about, if I had a magic wand, what would be the type of mentor that could help me with that, or a sponsor that could help open some doors for me? And just think about it. Maybe write it down and, maybe over the next coming days, weeks, or month, maybe the rest of the summer, just start taking some steps to think about how you could seek out a mentorship or sponsorship opportunity to help you develop in those areas. And now that I said that, I think I'm gonna work on that too.
I think honestly, I do that, but not intentionally. And I mean, I had a call earlier today with somebody who they just blew my mind in the
Hmm.
way that they were talking. And I even have a note written down here to reach out to that person. And I think I'm going to take your advice.
Hmm.
I am going to intentionally reach out to more people. And I would
Hmm.
encourage anyone who stayed with us during this
Hmm.
web webinar.
Hmm.
I don't know if we can call it a webinar.
Webinar,
This
fireside
video.
chat without the fireplace.
Yeah, I need to
Yeah.
get a fireplace for my office. I have the plants and the books. I mean, it would really complete the coziness. But
Yes.
I think, encouraging people, feel free to reach out to me, comments on any of the media that we have here. I'm more than happy to provide any additional tips. But just know that we talked about confidence. Just ask. You don't have to wait until you're a fully formed human being. You can just
Mhm.
start kind of chipping away and, ask people around you, ask people that you're interested in what they're interested in. And don't be afraid to reach out to people, is my
Love it.
takeaway.
Love it.
Great.
Robin, it's been a pleasure, and best of luck to everyone out there. See you around.
Thanks, Dana. Appreciate your time today.
Bye.